So welcome everybody to our Gamma seminar. Today we have the pleasure to guest Jorge Galtier from the University of Zaragoza. He's going to talk about the analysis of dynamical systems, stability, chaos, and synchronization of coupled Brusselators. So Jorge, thank you for accepting our invitation. It's a pleasure to have you here. The floor is yours. Let's go ahead.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Javi. Thank you, the organizers. Well, my goal today is just to give you some sample of what we are working in the study of, in this case, of coupled Brusselators. Although I will mention at the end some other problems in which we are working, in which we apply the same techniques and something more evolved, more theoretical. So the idea is, first of all, to introduce my group. This is the Computational Dynamics group of the Universities of Zaragoza and Oviedo. The reason why I do this is because the work I'm going to present today is not fully my work, because mostly this was work by 4 people, Ana and Carmen, the twins that you can see on the top row from the University of Zaragoza, and Fatima and Lucia from the University of Oviedo, who did most of the computations that you are going to see. The rest of us, Roberto, me, myself, Alvaro and Santiago, we were helping, we were doing the explanations, and we were doing some other things that I'm not going to talk to. That's the reason why we appear, all of us, in the paper, because the basic idea was doing by the 4 girls, and the 4 men were just supporting them. Also, just to mention them, Sergio, Maria Angeles, and Ruben, they are also parts of the group, although they didn't work in this particular problem, they work in other problems that the ones I will talk a little at the end. So the 2 publications I'm going to talk today are these 2 publications, Connecting Chaos Regions, Chaotic Regions in the Coupled Brusselator Systems in Chaos Rectans and Fractals from 2023. This was the first joint work in this problem, and this was mostly based in the thesis by Fatima Drubi, this girl from Oviedo, and also completed by the computations of Ana, Carmen, and Lucia, and the rest of us supporting with the theory. And also the second paper, almost synchronization phenomena in the 2 and 3 coupled Bruselator systems, was based in the previous paper. And we did some extension to analyze synchronization in this problem. So what I'm going to do, because I'm not sure about all your background, especially in dynamical systems, so I think it's good to start slow, start reviewing some of the most basic things about dynamical systems, and once that we have explained all the background, we will move on to the analyzing our system, the Brusselator model, and what different types of dynamics, type of phenomena we can find there. So let's start talking about dynamical systems from the beginning. What is a dynamical system? What we talk about dynamic systems basically are differential equations, sets of equations that govern the evolution of the variables in a certain model. We can think simply about some particle moving, and then we can analyze it as a dynamical system. Here we have some examples, some population model, and the certain population. This center one is the Hooke's law for in physics. We also have some equation for electric circuits. All of these can be seen, in fact, as dynamical systems, as long as you have some solutions, some governing equations that you can analyze. The interesting part, I think, that separates dynamical system from simply solving a problem is what you are searching for. Not only the resolution of the problem, but also the information that you know about the problem. Because basically you can study dynamic systems in 2 ways that usually you complement both of them. First, you can exactly solve the problem or numerically try to solve the problem. The thing is, you only get one solution, the one you're trying to get from the starting position that you have. Maybe you can solve for any initial position, initial values, but usually you're not able to do that. So the interesting thing is, yes.
Here's one curiosity. The 3 systems you wrote, they are these systems. So you have methods to obtain numerical solutions, exact solution, geometry, and so on.
Sorry, I didn't understood. Javi, I didn't understand what you say. You turn off the microphone.
Again, the three differential equations you wrote up, these three, all of them, they are Lie systems. This is just a curiosity. So you have methods to obtain, to integrate them or to obtain numerical solutions. Yes, it's a curiosity.
Okay, I just put this as some well-known equations just to, because I took this from a very basic explanation I did from the model. I didn't actually thought of the connection with these systems. Probably there's a lot to see there. In fact, when you go on and on, you can see some connections with geometry and so on. But I mean, this is not the idea I'm going to present here.
Yeah, I guess that it was just a curiosity when I saw them all.
Okay. So in fact, the interesting part in dynamical systems is to analyze qualitative properties and to determine equilibria, determine limit cycles, and so on. That's mostly what we are going to do. Basically, because what we're interested, obviously, in the shape of the trajectories. Sorry, this should be in English. In the shape of trajectories in the phase space, you have some starting point, some solution of the problem that defines a trajectory or an orbit. Both names are intelligible on the phase space. And we are going to analyze what shapes, what types of trajectories we're going to have. Just to mention, the basic ideas I'm going to present here are based in this book. If you don't know it and you want to read more, this I think is a good introduction to dynamic systems and to the ideas I'm going to present here. The interesting things about the qualitative properties of dynamic systems are that depending on the number of variables and on the linearity or non-linearity of the problem, you can find different characteristics. The most important ones probably are with only a single variable, you can have fixed points, that's equilibrium, situations in which the system is fixed. Bifurcations, that are changes in these fixed points. Basically, that's all. You go to two variables, you can also have some limit cycles you have here that are more, you have more interesting things when you have two variables. And with three variables, you have many other types of bifurcations. We have chaos only from three variables on. This is something that we will define later. And well, the idea is that the more variables you have, the more interesting qualitative properties you have that you didn't have before. And this will be relevant when I talk about our model. So starting with one variable, very basic, we have simply a system with a certain variable x evolving and the evolution controlled by some function. The equilibria will be simply the points that are the roots of this function. So f of the roots is 0, so this will be the equilibria of the system. The equilibria will be stable if we move away from the equilibrium just a little bit, we go back to the equilibrium. Under small perturbations, the system returns to the equilibrium. In this picture, we have on the left a stable equilibrium because on the left of the equilibrium, the derivative is positive, so the x goes to the right, goes back to the equilibrium, and on the right, it goes to the left, again to the equilibrium. Instead, the other equilibrium is unstable because small perturbations cause the system to move away from the equilibrium. So, as you can see in this simple example, stability is clearly determined by the sign of the derivative. In this case, we have a derivable function. If we have some discrete system, this could be analyzed in another way.
Okay.
Yes.
If the derivative is equal to 0, what you will do? You will have to go to higher derivatives.
Okay. So if it's equal to 0, this will be the thing. If it's equal to 0, probably you have to analyze more. In this very simple case, you analyze the third and the fourth derivative, and you get to see. We will show this in the next slide. Right. So the thing is that you may have some parameters in the model that may change the existence and the stability of the equilibrium, and these changes are bifurcations. Here we have on the left precisely the situation in which the derivative becomes 0. Consider this left model dot x equal r plus x squared. If you try to solve when this right hand part becomes 0, you may have 2, 1, or 0 equilibrium. And you have on the left equilibria, the center 1 equilibria, and on the right no equilibria. What's happening? Depending on the value of r, you are moving from one situation to the other. The left, stable and unstable. The center, if you consider the actual definition, that is by small perturbations, you should return, then this is unstable, because if you have small perturbation towards positive values of x, you will move away. So according to the very basic definition that I have given, this should be defined as unstable. Anyway, these situations are usually degenerate cases and usually appear as part of a bifurcation, which is what we usually are interested in. I mean, to change some parameter and to see these extreme cases where they happen. Not exactly what happens in this situation, because if this is modeling some physical system, you are doing some mathematical computations, you will never be exactly in this situation. You will be or negative or positive. Nothing is exactly 0. So I mean, it's not so interesting to see exactly what happens here, although you have to know it theoretically, and it will depend on the model. You also have to know what happens when you move from one point to another. And this is what we call bifurcations, because by changing the value of r, the system has a qualitative change. You move from two equilibria to no equilibria. So this is one of the most interesting things in dynamical systems, to know when you change from one behavior to another. Other type of bifurcations, bifurcations, in which from one equilibria on the left, which is stable, you will get 3 equilibria on the right, stable, stable, and stable again. In this diagram, we have r on the horizontal and x on the vertical. We see how we represent bifurcation diagram. This is called how we represent the stable and unstable equilibrium. Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm sorry that maybe it's not straightforwardly related what you are doing, but just a remark, because maybe someone in the audience can be interested. Both systems you are studying are Lie systems related to certain Lie algebras. Yeah. The thing is, the fact that you are considering terms with r less than 0, r equal to 0, and r bigger to 0, they could be related to the Bézier-Goubet algebra, to the SL2R algebra vector field related to the Lie system in the first case. Could be interesting to know if something like this it could be done for other pre-cut equations, because this is a kind of So it could be interesting if there is something algebraically described or geometrically described that allows you to describe this for more general systems. In the second case, it happens the same. It's also a Lie system related to a non-abelian two-dimensional Lie algebra. And again, putting r equal to 0, bigger than 0, less than 0, it means that you are in a certain subspace of the Lie algebra. So again, it would be interesting to study it. And also take into account that you have certain stable solutions. If by means of superpositions, you could try to understand that you have a certain stable solution, and the superposition allows you to study what it happens close to this particular solution. But I don't know, it's just a thing that it could be interesting for some people.
No,
I know that it's not related to exactly.
No, it's interesting. As I said, I have not, because I actually was studying other types of models. This is the basic types of things, so I didn't actually thought about the connection with Lie systems. Probably, I mean, these two models that I put are the basic forms of this silent bifurcation and pixel bifurcation that can appear in any other system, but you can always translate that bifurcation to the origin, and you can give it this form. So there are 3 or 4 different types of interesting bifurcations in 1 dimension, and also many other in 2 or 3 dimensions. So maybe some of them, maybe all of them, can be connected to Lie systems, and properties are related. Probably, as I say, I have not thought about that, but it could be interesting to see what is behind. Okay, so just moving to variables. As I said, in 1 variable, all we have are equilibria and how the equilibria can change, because we can do nothing more than moving in a line in one variable. In two variables, we have many other situations because we want also move in circles. Basically, that's the idea. We not only have equilibrium points that can be stable, can be unstable, or can be saddle points. Look at points A and C, which trajectories in one direction move towards the point, in other directions move away from the point. So these are, depending on the direction, they are stable or unstable. These are called saddle points in this context, as in many other contexts in mathematics, also similar. Point B is different. Point B is called the focus because it's unstable, but it's not stable, let's say, in a straight line, but it's unstable in a spiral. And look at that. This is spiraling towards G, which is an ellipse. This is a limit cycle because it can happen in 2 dimensions that the system doesn't go to a fixed point, but goes to a periodical orbit. You cannot have periodical orbits in 1 dimension because as we are working with problems with first derivatives, you cannot have you cannot go forwards and backwards. But in 2 dimensions, you can have this circle. So the main differences between one and two variables are this: stability is now governed not by the derivative, but by the eigenvalues of the Jacobian matrix, and depending on the signs, it can be unstable, stable, or saddle if one is positive and the other is negative, talking about real eigenvalues. If the eigenvalues are complex, we can have stable, unstable, or center focus, depending on the eigenvalues. This is, I will go back to this when they appear in the virtual model. As I say, Sari has some hints about dynamical systems. We have limit cycles, we will not have in 1 dimension, and we also have homoclinic and heteroclinic orbits. Look at these two systems below. On the left, we have a system with 3 equilibria. 2 of them are stable on the left and on the right. And on the center, we have a saddle node. Here you have the saddle node. Look at the orbits go around one of the equilibria and back to the saddle node. This particular type of orbit that goes from a saddle node and ends in the same saddle node is called an homoclinic orbit. Just to mention, this orbit takes an infinite time because you never reach actually a fixed point and you can never move from a fixed point. So the limits in minus infinite and plus infinite is the equilibrium. On the right, we have 2 different saddle nodes on the top and on the bottom, and orbits that go from one to another. They are called heteroclinic orbits. And these are interesting orbits because they are also connected with bifurcations and so on. Because what is more interesting in with two variables are limit cycles. And limit cycles can appear also through bifurcations. On the left, we have a Hopf bifurcation in which we have a stable focus. I mean, this means that orbits go towards the equilibrium, but in a spiral way. And in some point when m is value, the focus becomes unstable, so orbits go out of the focus, but they end up in a limit cycle. This is a way in which limit cycles appear from a single point, and then they become limit cycles. Another way in which limit cycles may appear or disappear is through homoclinic bifurcations. In this case, we have a center here, or probably it's an unstable focus, limit cycle around the unstable focus, and a saddle node orbits that go around here and towards the saddle. What happens here is that the limit cycle that is inside this part gets bigger and bigger and bigger until it touches the saddle node. And in this case, there is a homoclinic orbit that when you move the parameter that you are changing from A to B to C, you move it, you change this more, and then the homoclinic orbit disappears and becomes this shape. And in this case, we don't no longer have limit cycle. So in this situation, by changing some parameter of the model, we have moved from limit cycle to no limit cycle through a homoclinic orbit. Okay, so as you see, when you have 2 variables, things become more interesting. You can have many interactions between the different possible paths that you have in a system. The last interesting thing that I'm going to mention here are saddle nodes of cycles. As in one variable, you can have unstable and stable points that disappear. Here we have stable and unstable cycles that come, or from left to right appear both at the same time, or from right to left, but both together and disappear. So this is also another kind of bifurcation. So as you can see, bifurcations in the end are ways in which the different elements of the system appear, disappear, change their stability, and the other. What happens when we have three variables? Well, in three variables, we can have many other situations. Some of them we will see, which I have not mentioned yet. But the most interesting qualitative thing that appears here is chaos. Chaos, as is defined in some book, probably this definition is from the Strogas book that I showed you before, that chaos is an a priori long-term behavior in a deterministic system that exhibits sensitive dependence on initial conditions. This means that orbits are no longer periodic in chaos, unlike the previous case with two variables. They don't go to the infinite because we have some instability. Usually, instability means that the system goes either to another object or to the infinity. Chaos is not instability. Chaos simply is another different effect. And the important thing is that it's sensitive dependence on initial conditions. This means that two trajectories with similar initial conditions at a certain distance, delta zero, very small, eventually become separated. And after some time, they have some distance that is always larger than the initial distance. This exponent here, lambda t is the time, and lambda the diapone of exponent, usually the first diapone of exponent is called. And if this exponent is positive, we have chaos because the distance is getting larger between initial conditions that are together at the beginning. Instead, if the diapone of exponent is small, I mean, it's lower than zero, the initial conditions may become together. We will see an example. The typical example is the Lorentz attractor. In this type of system with chaotic behavior, what happens is that the orbits appear in a particular region of the phase space and form what are called attractors, strange attractors that have different shapes depending on the model. And what do I mean about dependence on the initial conditions? So we're going to see here a situation in which we have two different initial conditions, red and black, that start together. And we can see what happens here if everything works. Yes. You can see that they are together, okay? They are more or less together, but in a moment, now they are separated. And now look that they are going into different regions of the phase space. They started practically together, but eventually they always get separated. This is chaos. That it doesn't matter how together are different initial conditions, they always get separated. So this is a very interesting qualitative behavior of the system that only appears from three variables onwards. 3, 4, 5 variables, many more variables, you can have chaos, but not from one or two variables. Okay, so this is important because I'm going to talk about our model, about our work in the paper about the Brusselator. So let's first talk about the model that we have studied. This is the Bruselator model that represents a certain chemical reaction. We have some elements A and B that A becomes X, B plus X becomes E plus some product E, 2X plus Y becomes 3X, and X becomes Q. So this is only means that X and Y are some intermediate products of the chemical reaction from AB to PQ. So the thing is, if you model this with differential equations and you assume that we have large enough quantities of A and B, then the only interesting part are the equations for X and Y, because simply P and Q are products that you will get because of the other concentrations of elements. The interesting thing here is that you have some cyclic chemical reaction, because you can get more X and more Y depending on what you had previously. Okay, so you have a two-variable model with these equations, and we analyze it from a dynamical system point of view. First, equilibria. There's a single equilibrium, X equal A, Y equal B divided by A, which is in this point, this red point, you can see here, here, and here. The thing is, This is a focus. This means that its trajectories go towards the point when it is stable in a spiral way. And in some moment, in particular when b equals a squared plus 1, there is a Hopf bifurcation. This is a bifurcation, as I told you, in which stable focus becomes, in this case, unstable, and unstable limit cycle appears. And this is the situation precisely in which the model is interesting, because we have some limit cycle. This means that it doesn't matter, you start obviously exactly at the equilibrium. It doesn't matter where you start, you will always end in this limit cycle in which X and Y are periodically produced and consumed, produced and consumed. So from now on, we will only focus on the mathematical aspects of this model. We will forget a bit about the chemical background of the reaction, and we will focus on what happens here. The first thing that we can deduce from what I have explained before is that for the Brusselator model, this is all, because this is a two-dimensional model. We can say it's A and B, and we have a Hopf bifurcations.
Sorry,
yes.
Do you know if the system is Hamiltonian?
I don't think so. You have a limit cycle? No, I don't think so. Because any conserved quantity, I have not actually thought about that, but I don't think so. I will have to analyze this, sorry. Okay, so the thing is that from the point of view of dynamical systems, the interesting things occur when we have three or more variables. So what we are going to do is to couple two different Brusselators. How we do this? We consider two copies of the Brusselator with variables x1, y1, and x2, y2. And what we are going to do is to, to consider diffusion between the first and the second piece of the.
Okay, could you show me the previous slide, please?
Yes.
The first, with B is lower than A squared plus 1, and the third one, they are not Hamiltonian with respect to any symplectic volume, because the volume is not preserved in any manner. You see, the points in the first case, in the last case, are such that if you have a certain part, they will blow up to 0 to infinity or to a fixed volume. So there is no symplectic for preserving. Will allow for that. In the case B equal to a squared plus 1, I guess no. I guess that close to the stability point you can find something. Yeah. In the other cases that locally you can find, that I don't know. It's like, as Jorge said, it will be difficult to obtain some dynamics that will preserve any kind of volume. Yeah? But I mean, the first and the third, for sure, no. The second, I don't know.
The second, probably the second isn't also, because the thing with these type of bifurcations is that this limit cycle appears exactly at the equilibrium. So actually, for this case, this is still the first case. I mean, all trajectories are going towards this point, very slowly, but they are going. So in an exact way, it cannot be Hamiltonian. And you're right, no volume is preserved here. The second case qualitatively is as the same as the first case, although it was much.
Okay, so any one of them. I mean, the thing to say this is about the preservation of any kind of volume. So if it has a source or it has a source or a sink. Yeah,
yes,
it does not. It can be locally sometimes on certain points, but it fails in those points. Indeed, the manner to demonstrate to show that there is no symplectic form related to that normally is to consider what it happens close to the stability point and with the dynamics.
Okay, thank you. So for the coupling, what we consider that with these extra terms, the two different systems, I mean, one of them drags the other, let's say, because if the difference between x1 and x2 is very large, then this term will force the two variables to become similar. And the same with the other variable. So this is called usually diffusion, and this is the way in which we have coupled these systems to simply to experiment and to see what happens with this. And this makes sense in many physical, biological, chemical models, because this is the way in which systems interact. Obviously, the case lambda 1 and lambda 2 equals 0 corresponds to the uncoupled Brusselators because we have no coupling. And for other values, we have no for variables. This means that we can have chaos, we can have many other bifurcations that appear in 3 or more dimensions. So this is what we are going to investigate here. Just to mention that the synchronization plane, x1 equal x2 and y1 equal y2, is the subset in which the two Brusselators are exactly the same. And as they are the same state, they have the same values for A and B, and these terms are exactly 0. Both of them move synchronously because they are synchronized. This is why this is called the synchronization. And this will be important in some of the explanations that we will see later. So, just to mention some numerical techniques that we have used, well, my coworkers have used, are apart from numerical integration, continuation of orbits. This means simply that you have some solution of the system, and then you change slowly a parameter to see how the trajectory evolves. They have computed Lyapunov exponents along some orbits, and we have positive Lyapunov exponents. We have only chaos. Spike counting, which is a technique in which you count basically you count periodic behavior. One spike means that variables behave periodically. 2, 3, 4 spikes means that you have some changes from one period. Orbits with 2 different periods at the same time. If we have large number of spikes, this indicates that they have chaos in the model. So we will see this here. So the coupled Brusselator system. This has been studied in some other papers, and they have found this that I can show you here. These are the computations of the first Lyapunov exponent in the model. On the left, you have a situation in which changing the values of lambda 1 and b, they have computed the first Lyapunov exponent. And when the first Lyapunov exponent is larger than 0, the regions orange and red, this means that we have chaos. Instead, when it is below 0, we have no chaos. So you can see that chaos is not uniform. We have some regions in which chaos appear, and some regions even inside these chaotic regions in which chaos disappears. Okay. Below, we have the stress attractor for the chaos in one of these situations. Okay, so this is the shape of the attractor for the coupled Brusselators system in this region of parameters. Another region we have on the right from another article. This is from the people of in Oviedo. So again, we have a situation in which they have a positive Lyapunov exponent and some chaos for some values of the parameters. Notice the values of B and lambda 1 in both cases. On the left, they are allowed to change in a large area. And actually, this region was found numerically, simply changing parameters, checking, and they saw that here they had some chaos. Instead, on the right, the region is very, very small. The reason is that this was not computed numerically. I mean, it was computed numerically, but this was found due to some theoretical connection with bifurcation. There are some type of bifurcations that theoretically are shown to produce chaotic behavior. So although they look similar, they were found in very different ways. So, and in this paper, they explain how this chaotic region was found. So the goal of our paper was to check if there is any connection between both chaotic regions, because they happen for different values of parameters. Maybe for some parameters, you can move from one region to another in some way. So the thing is, introduce new parameter alpha that changes values of A and lambda 2. The model, these are 2 of the parameters in our model. If alpha equals 0, then we are in the first region, S and M, on the left. This is the case, alpha equals 0. Alpha equals 1, this one with the set of parameters that I mentioned, okay, region. So the goal is to go from one. Just to mention, for alpha equals 0, what is the region that we have? we have changed here the parameters because the previous slide was from the works they did, and we are working now. Sorry, here I will show you this one directly. We're working just with lambda 1 and with B. So the techniques to study chaos here are both spike counting and the Lyapunov exponents. The Lyapunov exponents I have already shown. Spike counting is simply counting how many spikes periodic orbits have. No spikes, spikes equal to 0. This dark region means that we don't have periodic behavior. We have stable equilibrium. For one spike, that is the light blue region, we have periodic orbits. Notice here that you go from 1 to 2. 2 is lighter blue, 3 is light green, 4 is green. You can see there are regions with 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and when we arrive to 8 spikes, we consider that we already have some chaotic behavior occurring here because, I mean, this gets larger and larger every time. So compare this spike counting with this Lyapunov exponents, and you can see that more or less the information is very similar. This is important also because in these numerical techniques, you have to realize that you have chaos, you have a positive Lyapunov exponent, but the opposite is not necessarily true. So you may need another computation to actually know that you have chaos. You have a large number of spikes and a positive Lyapunov exponent. It's quite clear that you have chaos here. Okay. Interestingly, what we have here in the pink lines are period doubling bifurcations. These are bifurcations I haven't mentioned, but these are when you have a limit cycle. So it may happen that it becomes separated, like a cell when it separates, that, and it produces a new orbit, but has two different periods. One out here, we here. It goes backwards and forwards between the two parts of the orbit. This is the period doubling. If this happens a lot of times, it's also related to the appearance of chaos. So here we have what is happening in A, point B, and point C in the diagram. In A, we have stable points, the red points here. In situation B, these red points have suffered a Hopf bifurcation. Each point has become a limit cycle. You can see them here. Instead, from B to C, the limit cycles have suffered a lot of period doublings. So we have a lot of different copies moved one from the other. This orbit, we have become these chaotic attractors that you can see here on the right on case C. Just to show you very briefly the bifurcation diagram, moving from left to right, we have some bifurcation. Here we have, yes, this blue point means that first we had a single equilibrium on the synchronization manifold, everything was together, then it become unstable, and a stable point appears here, which are there should be another one below, but this is symmetric. So this line represents this red point here that you can see on the top part of figure A. And then this suffers a Hopf bifurcation. This becomes a limit cycle, and the limit cycle suffers some period doubling and changing the values of B. This period doubling repeats, and finally you get this chaotic attractor. So the interesting part here is that chaos appears because of bifurcations. You have pitchfork, Hopf, period doubling, and finally chaos. And what we're going to see is that every time we have the same structure. From some limit cycles that appears through a Hopf bifurcation, we have some period doubling and some chaos here. In the other region, the alpha 1 region, very similar. Spike counting on the left, Lyapunov exponent on the right. And this bottom red part for another values of the parameters lambda 1 and lambda 2. What we have here, again, is that both computations show the existence of chaos. Again, I would like to mention that this region is very small compared to the previous one. And again, this dark region is that we have a lot of spikes, so chaos, basically. Here we have similar situation, two equilibrium points, red points. These points suffer a Hopf bifurcation in E. You can see below the E and F where these regions are. And F, we have chaos here. Let me show you what's happening in region. This small part compare with the other one that was much larger. This is very small, and chaos appears these small points, which actually are not points, are small chaotic attractors. Okay. Again, bifurcation diagram. We also have some period doubling. We can see on the top left how a Hopf bifurcation. Well, this one doesn't matter because it generates an unstable cycle. This is for generates an equilibrium outside of the synchronization plane. This equilibrium, let's go bottom left, generates some through a Hopf bifurcation here, some limit cycles. There are also some other things that I'm not going to mention. And finally, these limit cycles suffer period doubling, these green lines, and finally the green lines generate chaos that you can see here, this attractor. So I'm going very quickly because the thing is that all of this was computed numerically. And the interesting part is to see that connecting all the parameters, you can see an evolution of going from points to limit cycles to finally chaos when the limit cycles become doubling, suffer some repetition of the orbits. So the idea was to connect these two regions, alpha 0 and alpha 1. This plot on the left, we have on the bottom, alpha 0, you can see here, on the top, alpha 1. This gray region is the first region, and on the top, we want to reach the other region. And we want to see if there are some way to transfer trajectories from one point to the other. This was done, this is only a slide, but this was done when it was very complicated computations. The idea was to change trajectories from one point, one region to another. This is done via continuation. This means that we change slowly the values of alpha, and we see what's happening with the periodic orbits. In particular, the periodic orbits that suffered period doubling because they were the ones generating the chaos. So the thing is, the red and green lines are these continued trajectories. You can see we start here on the SM region. This is simply the projection on the red. This is the projection of the left figure to the bottom plane. So by continuation of the green and red orbits towards the right, changing the value of B, also the value of alpha. In some moment, Lucia had to stop because it has numerical problems. So this is why this takes a turn towards the bottom, then it goes to the right. So it was very complicated because several continuations had to be done, and all of them had to be then put together. This is because this.
Okay.
Yes.
What does it mean to have numerical problems? That the method fails? That
yes,
what happens?
That we should ask exactly Lucia what the specific problem. Problem is that all these numerical methods, I am not an expert in these numerical methods, have some convergence properties, and you have to make sure that the trajectory you're computing is converging to some value. What I imagine is that these tests failed, so it was not possible to continue the trajectory because after some point the trajectories didn't converge to an actual solution of the problem. This happens sometimes. I was just the other day testing some of the programs and I didn't get the results, so I said, this is where problems appear. I don't know why.
But so, you know, according to what you said, what you have is that for every particular case you have certain methods you have to apply. Yeah. What happens when you change? You don't have a priori any general method for any differential equation. It's something case by case. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. I think that's more or less the problem. There are different techniques. For example, my group before I came to the group developed a method based on Taylor series, which seems to be convergent for many situations. But anyway, once that you have a problem, you have to try to solve it. And in these numerical systems, you find problems where you don't less expect them. So you expect to go from one way.
Another question. It's a general one, okay? Because here you use geometry, you use numerical methods to study problems case by case. But you can also consider the solution of the system as the solution of a certain differential operator on infinite dimensional space and things like that. It's another approach, okay? So does someone try to study this by means of functional analysis? Because, you know, I don't know, you could try to see that solutions of 30 types so are particular solutions of differential operator, things like that. Has anyone tried to use functional analysis to study these things, to study cyclic solutions, attractors, and things like that?
Okay, this particular model, I don't know. Other models, yes. Again, the problem is that depending on the model, it may be very simple or it may be very complicated.
Yeah, sure. That's, imagine, for example, that you have a 13 operator that measures, describes the solution of a system, yeah? And you applied it to a certain point, and it turns out that bearing the point, the solutions you obtain in a certain space, they have a limit in this space of Q. So maybe you are talking about an attractor zero. I don't know, it's just an idea that can be applied.
Yes, I know.
Okay, anyhow, thank you. It was just
okay. Yes, okay.
Comment.
Yes, I mean, probably the main problem here is that, for example, analyzing chaos in this kind of problems is not a trivial problem. There are, for example, distinguishing between chaotic behavior and simply behavior with a long period may become very, very, very complicated. There are problems that can be analyzed analytically. In particular, there are some other cases in which, for example, part of what I am doing now is to separate variables between fast variables and slow variables, and there's a lot of theory behind, because as you separate variables, you reduce the dimension, and you can apply low dimensional theory to high dimensional problems. But basically, I think the basic problem is here that with two variables, maybe you can do this kind of things. From three variables onwards, it seems to be, in general, complicated. In many cases, maybe there are some solutions.
Also, I will tell you again that it was curious for me. In general cases, you can do anything. But in certain systems you wrote, there are not only systems where they can be projected into ones. So this general system you had, okay, it could be studied by means of that. This, if you have, maybe it was the half bifurcation where you have something like a Bernoulli equations on the variable r, and then you have a variable theta that you wrote at the very beginning. It is not a system, but the projection onto R, into the one-dimensional problem is. So indeed, it is some kind of extension, and you can apply these techniques. So, you know, if you want case by case, there are certain cases I have seen in your talk and another ones that could be studied this way. They are not purely system as said, but they can be reduced to them, something like that, something like that. For, as you said, for two-dimensional, I have seen it several times. For three-dimensional, it's more difficult, yeah? Another question is a general one. Just let me ask, how do you know that the example is interesting? Is because it appears in engineering, in physics, mathematics, or some people just study cases to study how it works, how bifurcations work, or something like that. But what do you consider to be an interesting case, and why?
Yes, in particular, in our group, most systems are based in some applications. For example, other models that we study are neural models, cardiomyocyte models, studying cells of the heart. This is because these kind of models are, I mean, these have applications, actual applications in the data analysis of, I mean, of medicine, biology, and this kind of fields.
Could you send me some work with these models, please? I mean,
yes. I will send you the last papers we published about this. I will show you them. Yes.
Okay, it would be cool to see this kind of things.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. just ending this part about the connection between these orbits. The thing is that this SM region, as you can see, not connected to the chaotic region that we have here. So what happened is that we found a new chaotic region we can see on the right. So the answer to the question that provoked this article was the M region connected to the DIR region? No, but it's connected to another chaotic region, the alpha 1 plane. So this new region is also very small. It's interesting to notice that this particular chaotic region was unknown before this paper and was only known because of these continuation techniques moving from one chaotic region towards some place. So in the end, we ended up in another very small chaotic region, which again, what happens? We have some Hopf bifurcation, we have some periodic bifurcations, and some chaotic attractor going out from this. Okay, so the summary of this article was that by doing continuation, by analyzing chaotic regions, by knowing where to look, you can find chaotic behaviors in different problems, in particular in this particular model, and chaos is usually generated because of these bifurcations. Just very quickly, I would like to mention what happened after this, because this part that this looks simply like a comment was actually very intriguing to know what happens with bifurcations of this problem. So we try to analyze later bifurcations of this coupled Brusselator model. So let me show you very briefly what bifurcations we have in the coupled Brusselator system. You have here in blue in a projection onto a three-dimensional space, because remember that we have four variables, the synchronization plane in which the system is synchronized both Brusselators. We have first limit cycle, an equilibrium in the center. What happens here on the bottom, we have the bifurcations of the limit cycles. We have here that this, on the bottom, the bifurcation of the equilibrium, yes. This red point is a Hopf bifurcation, and this point becomes a cycle on the synchronization plane. What happens from this second part to the third part? Okay, the limit cycle becomes unstable, and two stable limit cycles appear, both not shown below the synchronization plane. So we have now a bifurcation of limit cycles. From one limit cycle, we get three limit cycles. Two stable, the bifurcations will be shown here on top, and the stable one became unstable. What happens then? Very interesting. A new bifurcation in which the limit cycle becomes unstable and a torus becomes stable. It's a new type of bifurcation. This is called Neumann-Sacker bifurcation. It's kind of a Hopf bifurcation, but instead of going from points to limit cycles, it was from limit cycles to torus. And I am going to show you what happens with this torus, just to mention that this is a very small region in which this torus exists. So after this becomes again unstable, and then only points, equilibria are stable, and everything goes to some equilibria. So I'm going to show you what happens with this torus that we found analyzing the bifurcations of this coupled Brusselator system. We have the torus is surrounded by a saddle point, E plus, another saddle point, 0, and a limit cycle in red. All of them are unstable, but in a saddle way, trajectories go to P plus until they are very close, and then they go repelled towards P0. Then they get repelled towards the limit cycle, and then they get repelled again. So what happens here is this kind of behaviors. Let me show you here, because no, this is not. Sorry. Let me fix this quickly, because I wanted to show you what happens with the orbits here. Now, so this is the orbit that we found, which has a torus shape. This is on the synchronization plane, moving towards the limit cycle. But when it gets close to the limit cycle, it gets ejected from the synchronization plane. On the left, you can see. Towards a point, and then again ejected from it towards another limit cycle starting again. On the left for one value of b, on the right for another value of b. As you can see, it goes in a different speed. And you can see how this torus, because it's a torus because it's empty in the middle, although you can see that it's very, very, very small, the central part in this right case. So this is an actual stable trajectory of the model that we couldn't have found if it wasn't because of the analysis of bifurcations and because we knew what was happening with the stable manifold. Okay. Just to mention, the rest of the article, this was the second article, was based in computing how many times, what part of time, sorry, the limit cycle was close to the synchronization manifold, how long it was beyond the synchronization manifold. So first we found that the system was, for these values of B, the synchronization was, the system was synchronized, was on the synchronization plane, then it was ejected from it, this value goes to 0, which is the synchronization parameter, and then when B is larger, it goes back in part to the synchronization plane, and this is the value of the synchronization for different epsilon. I will not enter into details, so because the system was getting close again to the synchronization manifold. And this was also done for more system, for 3 coupled Brusselator systems, and we found something similar when 3 variables got synchronized in the certain case. In other cases, only 2 variables got synchronized, and this we could do this kind of analysis in this model, analyzing synchronization or partial synchronization in a way of the coupled Brusselator system with 2 systems, 3 systems couples. We could do with 4 or 5. Synchronicity is also very important in this kind of applied models because, for example, if we think about other models that we have studied, this is what I wanted to mention in the end, other models such as neurons, heart cells, all of these are systems that can be analyzed as dynamical system, but synchronization is a very interesting part because you know that cells are synchronized. For example, when the heart is beating, this is because the cells are performing synchronized contractions. And these kind of things can be studied with this model. The models are more complicated, but there are several simple examples that can be analyzed with these techniques, and several not simple examples with 27 variables or more, that even with some numerical techniques very similar to these ones can solve many problems and can help to understand what is happening in this kind of. Just to mention other theoretical aspects that can be done is singular perturbation theory, analyzing fast and slow parts of the dynamics differently, which helps to do what I mentioned before, helps to apply low dimensional techniques to high dimensional problems. So just that you can see the reference here, and that's what the. Thank you very much for your attention.
So thank you, Jorge, for your nice talk. Is there any question? No. Well, in case, could you explain a little bit what happens about these slow and fast variables in the last example?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay, so the thing is, let me show you for example, in this Brusselator model, this very example here. What happens here, let's focus on the right part where we have the limit cycle. What is happening here is that evolution may have fast regions and slow regions, depending on the values of A and B. Probably if A is very small compared to B, we have very fast evolution towards some parts of the limit cycle, slow evolution along this part. So the idea is to consider one of the variables fixed because it's very slow, another variable evolving toward its limit, its equilibrium. And then along the equilibrium of these fast variables, what happens with the slow variables? What happens, they evolve, in which way, and so on and so forth. So the idea is to connect different regions of fast evolution and slow evolution in some limit case. This is why this is called singular perturbation theory, because you have some singular parameter that separates fast and slow behavior. And then you're trying to fix together all the different parts of the dynamics. And this is interesting to see different phenomena, how limit cycles emerge from these bifurcations, what kind of cases you can see. For example, in some works that we will send you, Javi, we analyze some abnormal beats in the heart that can be in a way explained with this analysis of fast and slow behavior dynamics.
Okay, is there any other question, remark? No? So thank you, Jorge, for your talk. It's been very interesting, and it's nice to see someone who applies this to real life model. So we're cool to see whether I could say that lately I have seen more of this stuff in many many parts of geometry. For example, I saw something about the contact geometry and about the description of the brain, of the neural circuits to describe in the brain. So it's kind of nice and interesting. Thank you. Well, yes,
thank you.
Please send us the slides and the papers if you don't mind to me. It has to have them. And if you don't mind, we can publish. We will publish at some point the slides in the.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, thank you, Jorge. Really.
Thank you.
Regards to everyone in Zaragoza.
Thank you.